What's going on, everybody? Over the past few months, I've been building AI content systems for businesses, creators, and media companies who are just sick of creating content manually. And this system right here has made me and my clients tens of thousands of dollars in just the past 60 days. Now, if you've ever worked with or inside a media company, you just know the chaos. Someone is buried in a manual spreadsheet. Someone is manually
Welcome to my
going
series,
across
Simply
different
Smart
social
and Simple,
medias,
yet
trying to find the top performing posts in their niche, extract the comments and rewrite scripts to create better content for themselves, right? But the problem with that is that it's reactive, it's manual, and it's just simply outdated, especially with the technology we have at hand today. But what if someone told you that you have an AI system that didn't just track the best performing posts, but also learned from it, pulled out the insights, the tone, the comments, right? How useful did the people engaging with the top performing posts actually find it? Did they resonate with it? And use that and extract that information to repurpose it into better content from the already top existing and performing posts. I'm Aryan. I run an AI automation agency, and we've implemented systems exactly like this for over 50 businesses. And in today's video, I'm going to show you exactly how we do it. So we're going to be building this exact tool using Airtable, Make.com, GPT, and LLM, and a tool called Apify. So Apify is what allows us to scrape all that information. And I've really simplified it. So literally anyone, whether you're a complete beginner or you're one of the pros, can follow along. It is no coding, no fluff, just plug and play. And by the end of the video, I'll be sharing the exact Airtable database that we're going to be making on this video, along with the Make.com scenarios, which we're going to be making as well. So let's dive right into it. Okay. So the first thing I want to bring your attention to is over here, we have the inputs. So the inputs in this case, for this example, we're actually be looking at the gym niche, the fitness niche, and we have these specific hashtags that we've entered. So you can come over here and say, let's say you want to extract information from Elon Musk. So let's say you would just enter his profile, and in the scraper, we would enter that as information. But in these cases, these are the exact hashtags that we want to be extracting information out of. We have the option to select different channels, where in this case, we're going to be doing it for TikTok. And then over here, we have the scrape content, where if we scroll through it, we have the linked record to it. So the hashtag will be linked over to whichever one it was. The captions, we're going to have the cover image. We're going to have the specific video as well. If we give it a quick play, we're going to have the open URL. So if we open it, we can have the direct link to the TikTok video, where we're going to have the SRT file or the transcription, the views, the likes, the shares, the saves, the comments, and the duration of the video. Then what we're going to be doing is we're going to be using a scoring algorithm to identify the top performing posts based on each different industry, right? Because every specific platform or social media platform because every single social media is slightly different. For instance, on TikTok, they really value, in this case, as we can see, the number of shares and comments and likes. So we have a slight scoring algorithm to identify the top posts. And then what we do is a sentiment analysis, where we find the overall sentiment of the video. How was the response by the users, the comments who were engaging with the video, from a scale of 1 to 5? Then we use the tip usefulness. So in this case, let's say it's a bicep workout. Did they actually find it useful? Were they kind of trolling the person? Or did they find that he was perhaps not giving all the information they needed? Was it very open-ended? We have the common questions and the key insights. And these are all pieces of information that we're going to be sending into AI to create better quality content. So let's dive right into it. So what we want to do, number one, is we want to trigger the automation in some shape or form. So the step number one is going to be to run the TikTok scraper. And to do that, we're going to be using a tool known as the TikTok data scraper over here. As we can see, it's an Apify. And in terms of the pricing, it essentially charges you $4 for every 1,000 results we pull in. And if we quickly take a look at the information and the inputs, or what is the different things that we want to be putting into it, we can see that we can give it the hashtags. We can give it specific usernames, the profiles in this case. We can also add a lot of different information, such as the oldest post date, scrape the last and number of results, the newest post date, exclude the pin posts, the search queries, the search results, and a bunch of information. So what we want to do is, number one, let's go back to Airtable, and we want to have a webhook that essentially starts the automation the moment we run and click on this button, as we can see over here. And what we want to then be doing is getting all these different usernames. Let's delete this one. this user, and we want to get all these different usernames in make.com. So what we want to do is, if we come back over here, we want to go to automations, and we have over here to run TikTok scraper. So as we can see, the automation is when record matches condition, when type of automation is run TikTok scraper and the check mark is ticked. What we could want to do is number one, come back over here and let's just say, so this is just something that us guys like to do when we're presenting it to the clients to have real life feedback that, okay, the automation has been sent, it's been triggered. So we want to reset it back to initial values. And then what we do is we come and run a script. So as we can see, let's come over here to Airtable and let's do watch responses and let's create a new webhook. So we want to copy this address over here and let's come back and delete this and paste this. Finish editing. Let's turn it on and let's just test it out quickly. So let's delete this and click on save. Okay, so as we can see, it is running and let's give it a sec. It should catch the response in a couple of seconds. Okay, so as we can see, we got the record ID. But in this case, the record ID is actually not what we really need. We just need a watch response to trigger it the moment someone clicks on the button. And what we want to do is then let's come back over here, Airtable, and let's click on search records. So what we want to be doing is essentially we want to be searching through the input file and getting all these hashtags and usernames. So when we go back in the Apify scraper, we're going to enter them as usernames, or in this case, the hashtags for it to go and scrape across all this data from. So let's come back over here and let's select the base. So I'll come back over to mine. And the base is called TikTok competitor scraper. So let's search it up. Okay. And the table we're looking for is the input. And we can always just select all if we want, but if you just want to be super specific, we can just get the hashtags and username because that's what we want. And let's just test it out for a quick sec. So, okay, as we can see, we're getting the usernames, the gym talk, fitness motivation, perfect. So let's come back now to the data scraper. So now we want to be sending this information directly into the TikTok data scraper. And what we're going to be using is JSON outputting. So let's take a look at what their JSON looks like. So we have exclude pin post, we have the hashtag. So this is what we want over here, as we can see. Okay, so should download the covers, should download slideshow images, subtitles, and videos. Okay, so let's come back and make this true. So as we can see, we want the cover image, the thumbnail of the video. We do want the SRT file as well, the subtitles. And yes, we do want to download the video as well. Even though we're not using it for this exact system, if we think about future applications, we could send this video or specific screenshots at every 5 seconds of the video into GPT to analyze the image, Vision GPT in this case, to extract insights out of it or tell us, just give us some really interesting information about the post. Although, I'll be honest, I haven't thought about it yet. So let's copy this for now. And let's come over here and add Apify. So what we want to be doing is, number one, we want to run an actor. So an actor is essentially like the TikTok data scraper. In this case, this is just their terminology for running a specific scraper. So the data one. So let's come over here, run an actor. And if we come over to actor, we have the TikTok data scraper. We can select that one and run synchronously. So we have two options. Either we can run it synchronously or we cannot. So if we take a look, so the scenario will wait until the actor run is finished. Be aware that there's a maximum timeout for the scenario based on the plan. If your run exceeds this timeout, you'll need to use the trigger watch actor run. So we have two options, and I'm going to show you option number one, which is run synchronously, but I'll also tell you what you can do in case the amount of inputs we're putting into the Apify scraper are so much that the scraper is going to take really long to run. So imagine in the case we're scraping 1,000 profiles. So it's going to take definitely more than 5-10 minutes, probably close to an hour as well, possibly. So let's come over here and let's enter the input JSON files. Okay. So something I like to do when entering JSON is I like to come over here to JSON formatter, format and beautify. And now if we copy it, it's a lot more easy to understand. So, okay, we have the exclude pin post results per page. Okay. So let's make it 2 for now. So download covers. Okay. And these options, we don't really have to tap or touch them, honestly, and save it. And in the hashtags, let's enter. If we come back over here to the TikTok scraper, we can see that the input type for the hashtag is an array. Okay, so what we want to do is, let's just save this and let's unlink this, bring this over here. And we want to be converting. As we can see, we're getting multiple bundles. So what we're going to be doing is it's going to be running multiple times for each bundle, one by one by one by one. but we want to pass this as an overall array. So what we want to be doing instead is, let's come over here and add a text aggregator. So if we take a look, so the text aggregator takes multiple bundles or outputs and inputs it into a singular one. So the source model, what we want to put over here is search records. And let's go to advanced settings. And the text in this case is going to be the hashtag username. And let's just test this out for a sec. So let's unlink this and let's bring this over here and see how it looks like. So if you can see over here, we've got all those multiple bundles and we're outputting a single form of text. But as we can see, this is not an array and this is not going to work with the TikTok scraper at all. So what we want to do is we want to convert this to an array. So we come here, we can add 2 colons and we want to add a row separator in this case by a comma. So if we come back over here and let's zoom out a little bit, let's give it a quick run. And as we can see, now we're getting proper array elements, exactly how it's supposed to look like. So if we come back over here, we can see that we're getting fitness tips, gym talks, exactly in the form of an array like we want. So then what we can do is now we can actually run the scraper in this case. So if we come back over here, let me move myself. So now we have these specific hashtags. So we can just come over here and add this one over here. And before we run the scraper, let's just take a quick look at what are the different inputs we can enter. So video with hashtag, okay, number of videos per hashtag. Okay, so we want the results per page. I believe we already have that added. Results per page, okay. So that is the number of TikToks you want to scrape per hashtag profile or search query. So let's come over here and let's give this actor a quick run. So let's just test it out, honestly. Okay, so as we can see, the actor's running. And if we come back over here in the runs, we can see that it's starting the crawler. And it should probably take about a minute or two. Probably since we're sending 5 elements and we're scraping 2, so 10 TikTok posts. Maybe 30 to 40 seconds, honestly. So what we want to do is after we run an actor, we want to get the data set items because the actor itself is not going to actually return all the data. What we're going to do is, let's just give it a sec and see how it runs. Okay, as we can see, so it's getting 28 pages in this case. And as we can see, the billing as well, it's gotten 10 results and it's charging us $4 for every 1,000 results. So as we can see, it's almost done over here. And yeah, so we've scraped the hashtags. And if we take a careful look at the output in this case, so what we're getting is we're getting the ID, the act ID, user ID, and all of this is good information. But what we really want to be seen is the default dataset ID in this case. So if we just copy this over and zoom out, let's just test it out. So if we add Apify and see, let's take a look. We have run an actor, which we just ran, scrape single URL, and we have get dataset items. So this is exactly what we're going to be using over here. And let's unlink this. Let's bring this over here. And now if we put in the dataset items over here, where we've just copied the dataset ID and we give this a run, we can see that now we get the text, we get the language, we get the author metadata. So this is the specific profile. In this case, I think their name is Sal Money, DJ Sal Money. I don't know who that is. We get the music as well. The music author, something that's really useful for potentially when we're creating these videos, we want to be extracting the top performing videos that are meant to go viral with this specific type of video, which in this case is the workout niche. We have the location, California, so we can segregate it by the different countries as well for different agencies. Day one agencies based in Italy. So they only want to be getting information or companies that are in Italy. Then we have the media URL, where in this case, we have the scraper. Okay, we have the video metadata. So, and we have the subtitle links, which is exactly what we want over here. Cool. And we have the hashtag. Okay, awesome. So let's go back over here. And let's click on search Airtable. And now let's connect the two of them. So what we want to be putting now is the dataset ID. So we can just search it up. So we have the default dataset ID, which we have over here. Okay. And once we do this, so we can, for the purposes of testing, let's do this. And I actually lost the dataset ID. And this is actually really useful for testing because we don't want to be running the same scenario over and over again and keep running the actor and just burning through money. So what we can do is, this is the actor we just ran. So what we can come is if we go to storage, we can actually get the exact data ID over here as well, which is really useful for testing, especially with Apify scrapers. So for now, let's just keep this. And now let's parse over this information to insert into our Airtable database as we see over here in the scrape content, where we want to be having the captions, the specific hashtag, the cover, the media, the open URL, and every single field over here. So what we can do is click on over this, update a record by its ID. Or actually what we want to first do is we want to find the specific Airtable record after the search record. So let's come over here to search records. I think what we want to do is search the record in this case. So let's just give this a run again. Do we have access to the exact hashtag that we were taking a look at? So if we take a look over here, okay, so we do have the exact input if we see Gym Talk. So this is how we're going to match it to the exact hashtag and then match it to the new created video on Airtable. Okay, so input Gym Talk. Cool. So let's come back over here. Airtable token. It was called TikTok competitor scraper. Okay. And in this case, we're once again going to be searching through the input. And what we want to do is search for the hashtag once again. But now what we want to do is we're going to set a formula. So in this case, we're going to say something is equal to this. Okay. So hashtag / username is equal to, in this case, it's going to be input. Okay. So let's give this a quick run and see if we get, okay, is invalid, unknown field, username. Okay, I spelled it wrong. Fine. So as we see, yes, we're getting the exact one we scraped. And if we come back, we're getting 10 output bundles. So what we're going to be doing is now we're essentially matching every single input that we got over here, one by one, to the scraped content. This is just good practice for visibility purposes. So when we have this master database of all types of video scraped, we know what the initial link is to, right? So if you could imagine, we have a list of the top performing posts. We want to be knowing that which hashtag we were entering in this case was actually getting the top result. So what we come back over here is, let's click over here and click on create a record in Airtable. And now we want to be creating the exact ones. So let's come back to TikTok competitor scraper and sentiment analysis, scrape content. And now we're going to be inputting the fields one by one by one. So if we see over here, we have record ID. So this is the primary field. And over here, we're going to be attaching ID. Or no, what we want to do is, this is just for the nomenclature and naming conventions. We're going to add the Apify scraper ID of the specific video it got in this case to ensure that we do not have duplicates. And hashtag, what we want to add is then the exact record ID. Then we have captions. Okay, let's take a look now. Where do we have? So we do not want the author metadata. We don't want the music meta right now. We don't want location either. So what we want to be doing is, let's see. Okay, so this is the captions. And again, best practices when we're actually doing this kind of stuff, when we have so much information, is we can just come over here and click on show all. So now we can quickly scan through every single piece of information. Okay. Then we have the cover image. So over here, we want to map it to the cover URL. Then we have media. So media is going to be, in this case, the exact video that we downloaded, which if we come over here to format original media URL, this should be the one. Transcription. Okay. So the transcription is an interesting one because if we see, we have a download link over here. So let's just test this out for now. But I already am thinking that we're going to have to use an HTTP module to download it for us and then send it over as a transcription. Then we have the views, the likes. Okay. So this is pretty straightforward. I believe they count. The like should be share, play count. Okay. So we have over here the play count. We have So in this case, the view count is actually the dick count. Not too sure why they named it like that. Then we have the number of shares. And the saves in this case are, do we have any information? Collect count, comment count. Okay, we have the number of comments. And collect. Okay, we have share count. I'm not too sure what the shared save. And then we have the duration, which in this case should be over here. And the video created time. Okay. So let's take a look. Created time, ISO. That should do the job for now. And we have the video URL in this case where we should have it over here. Okay. So let's just give this a quick run and see how it actually works. Okay. So we got an error. We got 2 parameters failed. Let's save the module once and let's open the log. Okay. So array of objects expected in parameter, array of objects expected in this parameter. Fine. So let's come back, array of objects. Okay, so let's just test it out. For now, let's just enter the first piece of information. I'm pretty sure it's one of these 2. And let's reload the page. Let's zoom out a little bit. So, okay, so we can see that we're getting the right hashtag in this case. We're linking it to the right one. We have the correct URL as well. Okay. So what we're missing is the cover, the media, and the transcription. So the transcription is pretty straightforward. It should just be an HTTP request, but the cover and the media. Okay. So those are 2 fields we need to get. So let's add a module over here. Let's get the transcription first. HTTP. Let's do get a file. And we have the URL over here. So let's put over the transcription. Or is it subtitle? There we go. The subtitle link. And we can see the language is English US. Okay, so let's enter that as a filter. PNG US. Okay. So what we want to be doing is let's set up a filter for this where the subtitle language is only English in this case. Because if we come back to Apify, we can see that at times it returns a lot of different URLs. It can return it in a bunch of different languages. So let's say, for instance, this one. Okay, so this is in English. This one doesn't even have a URL. Okay. Got it. So let's come back over here and equals this. So we have this search records. And we also want to have a filter where the transcription in this case exists. So subtitle links exist. Otherwise, the HTTP module is going to break. So let's put it as exist for now. And let's run this once. Okay, see, as we can see, a lot of them do not even pass through the filter. And now we get the exact SRT file. Okay, awesome. And if we come back over here, transcript, and let's go back to data. So now we should have the exact transcription as well being loaded. And let's come back over here. Let's delete every single thing. And come back and select run now. Okay. So as we can see, we are getting the transcription as well. POV, it's your first time squatting. The gym is busy. You have no idea. Okay. So now we want to be getting the cover and the media in this case. And let's go back to Apify to take a look at what exactly this media is. So if we open this link. Okay, guys, so it was an incredibly amateur mistake. And let me show you exactly what I mean by it. So if we come over here and we come back to the cover, what I'm supposed to do was if we come back to map and we add an item, we can insert the file URL where Airtable would download the file at the given URL and keep its own copy of it. So let's give it one more shot. So we have the cover. So let's search up the cover in this case. And we have the cover URL. So let's just test that out for a sec. And let's run it once again. 2, 3, and let's come back to the exact one. And yes, as we can see, we finally do have the cover, but hopefully this gives you a really good perspective about how I test things as I'm going. It may seem like it's really messy right now, right? As we see, there's like a watch records over here, but this is exactly how I test things out. And testing is really important. You want to be testing different edge cases. And because this is just the purposes for a demo and to make it as simple as possible, it's not incredibly complicated, but there are actually a lot of nuances because, for instance, imagine there's a video in the case there's actually just audio playing and there's no transcription. So we actually have to put a router for that because Apify is not going to return a single transcription in that case. And if it does not return a transcription, well, the HTTP module will break. And that is exactly why we put this filter over here, that it exists. So we do not end up breaking our scenario. I wouldn't want to give you a broken module. So, okay. So we have this as well. So we're very close to getting the first step of the scraper working. So now let's come back to media. And now we want the exact video. So if we come over here and we go to video media URLs, okay. So this should be the one that gets it done. And let's give it a quick shot. Okay. Yeah. Awesome. Okay. So now we more or less have the entire scraper working. So what we want to do is come back over here and let's now test it out in full workflow. Okay. So let's come back, connect the two of them. Let's reset this and let's give this a run. So let's turn it on immediately. Okay. So it's going to take a while because now we're actually going to be running the scraper live. And something we actually do want to do is remove this dataset ID and let's add dataset, in this case, default dataset ID. Okay. And it's turned on. Let's call this TikTok scraper. So now we can come back over to the Apify. Let's delete every single thing over here. And just for the purposes of testing this one, let's actually just make the run an actor. Let's make it 1 result per page. And something I also realized is we want to be filtering only for the top performing posts. So what we want to do is we want to add another filter in this case, where let's add another rule. So the likes or the hearts. So let's take a look at it. So what do we have? The play count, the share count. Okay. So the number of views. Let's say we want the number of views to be minimum greater than 1 million, which is, yes, that's 1 million. Or in this case, we could add another rule as well, where, for instance, let's say the share count, the comment count is, let's say it is a high engagement video. So it's greater than 1,000. But as you can see, we can keep adding different filters and making this really nuanced and sophisticated based on the agency, their preferences, your preferences, or the clientele's preferences in this case. So let's turn this on and let's come back over to this thing and let's give it a run. So while this is running in the background, let's see as it starts running. Okay, awesome. So what we have now is we want to be extracting the comments. And we're going to be extracting the comments using scraper number 2, which in this case is a TikTok comment scraper. It takes about $1 just for 1,000 comments, which I think is a really solid price compared to the initial scraper, which was $4 for every 1,000 videos. And this one runs a lot faster as well. And if you take a look at the JSON file, the inputs on a high level that we can enter are the comments per post, exclude the pin post, max replies per comment, and the post URL. So it's incredibly straightforward, honestly. So let's take a look if the scraper is done running. Okay, it just finished running. And let's come back over here to the scrape content. Okay, so as we can see, we only picked up one of them. And that is simply because of our filter, I believe, in this case, where if we save it and go back, yep, most of the videos simply couldn't pass through the filter. It seems in this case, 1,000 comments. Okay. So for the purposes of testing, I would want a couple more videos. So let's rerun this module and let's make it 2 in this case. And let's lighten up the filters a little bit. So let's remove the condition for the number of comments and let's make the minimum number of views 800K. Okay. So we can delete this one. And now that it's turned on, we can close it as well. And let this run in the background. And let's keep this one for testing for the next stage while the scraper is running in the background. So let this start running. And now let's start working on the extract comments. So once again, let's call this sentiment analysis. And what we want to do is, once again, we're going to start with a watch, or not a watch records. It's going to be Airtable watch responses in this case. So let's create a new webhook. And let's copy this webhook, come back over here, extract comments. So this is the one that we want to be using. So when the type of content is extract and the run, okay, that's good. Let's clean this up. Let's delete this. We want to reset it back to scratch. And if we run the script, let's come over here and let's delete this link and paste it. Finish editing. Let's turn it on and let's test it now. So extract the comments. Okay, cool. So this is working. So now what we want to do, guys, is if we think about the input URLs that we're going to be putting into the Apify scraper, in this case, it is the post URLs as we see over here. So this is what we want to be entering this in this case. It's not going to be the inputs of the initial hashtags. It's going to be the input of the URL, the TikTok video in this case. So if we come back over here, let's go to AirTable, search record. Let's switch this over to my table. And it is called TikTok competitor. Okay. And do let me know if you guys are following along, if I should slow down maybe a little bit, make things a little bit simpler. I'm testing this new tool called Screen Studio. And that is why this camera keeps moving, and I don't know how it's going to look in output, but I've seen some pretty good results from online creators using this tool. So let's come back to all video scraped and let's go over open URL, video URL. Okay. And let's click on limit can be 100 in this case, even though for testing, we probably do want to reduce it. And okay, as we can see, we have all these videos over here now. The video URL, the video URL. Okay. Sick. So let's come back to, and now we want to run the Apify scraper. Or actually, what we want to do is we want to be using the exact system we used over here where we use the text aggregator. But in this case, we're going to be using the text aggregator to create an array of not the usernames, but the video URL, which in this case is over here. Okay. And now we can come and run the Apify scraper. So run an actor. Okay. It is called TikTok comments. Clockworks. Is it by Clockworks? Yeah, that's the one. Run synchronously once again. And let's come back over here and let's copy this. Let's go to JSON formatter, format beautify. Let's copy this. Okay. So let's extract 10 comments for now for the purposes of testing. And the URLs over here are going to be the text. Results per page is 1. That looks clean. So let's just test this one out now. Let's bring this over here. So this scraper is actually going to be running a lot faster than scraping the videos. Not too sure about why that happens. Maybe just easier for a scraper to collect comments as opposed to scraping an entire video. But we also have to think about it, right? The video is getting the transcription. It's getting the captions. It's getting the video URL. It's getting transcriptions in a multiple different languages as well. So potentially it makes sense. And let's take a look. So we should have the dataset ID once again. And if we come over here, Apify, get dataset ID. Let's paste this dataset ID. And this camera is confusing. Okay. And what we can do is unlink this, bring this over here, and let's see this. Okay. Okay. So we have, can we just appreciate the help and advice he gives? Okay. Like by author, reply ID, avatar thumbnail. Okay. So guys, if you notice over here, we actually, each bundle is an individual comment. So it is not actually the entire video as one bundle with multiple comments under it. So we first have to do some type of data parsing or data extraction in this case to ensure that we are aggregating all the different comments into an individual bundle for the specific video in this case. So if we come over here, what we could do is, I think it should be, we could probably just use a text aggregator in this case once again. And we could probably group it by the URL. So let's come over here. So we have the text. And okay, so we can group it by the video URL. Let's do that. The row separator, a new row. Mm, okay, and let's just do this for now. Let's see how this works. Okay, so as we can see, we have a key. So the key in this case is the individual video URLs. And can we just appreciate the help he gave? Okay, this looks really good. So if we actually just check out this video quickly and let's look at the comments and see if it actually matches it. So if we come over here, can we just appreciate the help? You sold big chains at buy one. Can we just appreciate, okay, you sold, oh, great. So we got it in one go. That's nice to look at. So now we have the exact video URL in this case, and we have all the comments scraped under one bundle. So now what we want to be doing is we want to send this information over to an AI model to essentially scrape or analyze the information and pick for us the overall sentiment, the tip usefulness, the common questions, and the key insights. So let's come over here and let's add OpenAI, create a completion. Let's just clean up the computer. Okay, and let's save this here, scenario once. So in terms of the model, I would typically use 4.0 in this case. I wouldn't be using O1 for this. I don't think it's required. And I wouldn't be using something like 3.5 mini or 3.5 turbo, sorry. I wouldn't use a dumb model in this case. We do want to extract relevant insights. And I actually have a quick prompt I actually worked up in the background over here. So what we're going to be using is the system user assistant prompt. So the system is essentially where we're giving the AI a role, which in this case, if we come, it's a really simple prompt. It is you are a specialized sentiment analysis assistant for workout related TikTok comments. And this is a really quick hack, guys. If you just want to get out or whip out a really good prompt super quick, you can actually just use AI to do it. Though you have to be very specific about the type of prompt you're looking for, because AI has a pretty big tendency to output some really long and just full of jargon, fluff type prompt, where that's not really optimal, where a shorter prompt is actually really clean. And that actually gets a lot more accuracy and performance out of the AI model. So we're giving it a role over here. You're a specialized sentiment analysis assistant for workout related TikTok comment. And now in the message, we're going to enter the user prompt, where the user prompt is we're giving it the context, the instructions, the inputs, the output examples. So let's come back over here and let's quickly look at the prompt. Your goal is to produce 4 fields: overall sentiment, workout helpfulness, common questions, key insights, 1 to 5 scale, 1 to 5 scale, a bullet list, and a short summary. In your analysis, consider, do commenters find the workout useful or helpful? Is it practical for everyday use? Are people tagging each other using positive emojis? I like the emojis they put over here. Are they praising the workout? Are they mentioning? So we can go over this and we then give it the exact JSON output that we want it to be giving back to us, where we're going to parse the JSON output and enter it in one by one in every column in Airtable. So let's just copy this over here and let's make this a little bit bigger. Okay, so let's clean this up and here. So it's a clean, simple, short prompt. That's what I like to call it. And that's exactly how I like to make my prompt. And the text is over here. So this is the input text that we're giving. Remember, this is aggregated for every single key. So it's one by one by one for every single video in this case. And what we want to do is max completion. That is fine. Show advanced reasoning. So what we want to do is we want to make the text response the response format from a text to a JSON object, and we want to parse the JSON object as well. So let's come over here and let's rename this sentiment analysis. Okay. And as we can see, we have multiple bundles. So this is going to run 4 times. And I actually do want to run it multiple times to ensure that it's always outputting the right JSON format. And to do that, I'm actually going to reduce the temperature and the top P value as well to ensure that the format is exactly like we want in JSON format, because sometimes it might have a tendency to return it in not JSON format or not the appropriate JSON format, which would obviously break the module and it wouldn't let it run. So let's make it 0.6, and over here I'll make it 0.8 to make it a little bit more competitive, you could say, in selecting the outputs. So let's take a look over here. So if we take a look at the results, yep. So we get the score, we get the helpfulness, we get the common questions. Okay, so this is an array. So we're going to have to do some type of a mapping or join function to get the array into a single output field. And we have the key insights where commenters appreciate the clear and effective workout advice with some noting. Okay, this looks great. So let's come over here and let's now set multiple variables. So variable number 1 is going to be overall sentiment. And over here, so what we need to do, if we notice, if we come back over here, we can see that in Airtable, this is a single select field. And a single select field, I know it looks like they're just numbers, but it actually has to be inputted or created a record from make.com using a string. Because if we simply just add, for instance, let me show what I'm trying to get to. So if we go to Airtable and we create a new record, in this case, for my Airtable token keys, or sorry, it has to be updated record in this case. Yeah. So updated record by its ID. Do we have the ID? Okay, so we have the ID over here. So let's just test it out. So a really good way for actually testing out an Airtable instead of running the entire scenario is just have the record ID saved over here. So if you come over here, just a formula, record ID formula. So now this gives me the flexibility to just copy this record ID and I can just test it out with this information over here. So if we come over here, let's take a look at it. TikTok, competitor scraper, sentiment analysis. Table should be scraped content. Yep. Let's paste in the record ID for testing. And I'll just show you exactly what I mean. So if we see overall sentiment, we can paste this over here. We can put this over here. The common questions, it's not going to work because it's an array, but let's put it in there. And key insight. So let's just do this. Let's unlink the. This does look a little bit sus, but let's give it a shot. Yeah. So if we see, it says it cannot parse the value for field tip usefulness. So if we come over here, cannot parse the value for tip usefulness. And tip usefulness in this case is, as I said, it is a single select field where even though it looks like it's numbers, it is actually in a string format. And Airtable is expecting this to be a string. But currently we're entering it as a numeric field. So that is why when we unlink this, let's bring this over here. We need to do over here to string. This is a formula that converts any string value to a string in this case. So we want to be doing this over here. We want to add another value. So in this case, it's going to be workout helpfulness and toString. Let's bring it over here. Let's add this. And now, as we took a look, we have the common questions. Okay, so let's save this as common questions. And now we want to be using an array function, which in this case, I would be using the join function. So the join function concatenates all items of the string into a single string. All items of the array into a single string, right? Using the specify separator between each item. So let's come over here. So if we take a look at this input format, what we have over here is we have the array and we have a separator. So I'll show you a couple of examples of what this is going to look like. So if we come over here and in the join function, let's add, this is the array we're going to be tagging. And if I come over here and I put a comma, so all the elements of the array, in this case, the common questions, question number 1, question number 2, question number 3, they're all going to be separated by a comma. So let's click on this and save. And let's test this out itself, just to show how exactly, because this stuff is really useful and this is really what makes the magic happen in automation. So if we come over here, we can see that now we have the common questions as a single field saved. We do not have it as individual fields of an array anymore, but it is separated by a comma, ideally for visual and optic purposes, especially when you're presenting this to a client, you're showing this to someone else, or you're just using the system for yourself. You want to have these exact things line by line by line. So what we would do in this case is, instead of a comma, we would come over here and we would add a new line. And then what is the other field we have? The other field is key insights. So the key insights, we don't really need to change it, but we can just save it since we're doing everything else as well. Key insights, okay. And now let's add this. Update an Airtable. Okay. So now we can just map it all one by one. The common questions and the key insights. And let's save it. So now get dataset items. Let's just set it as 1 for now. So we just get one item and we don't keep running through the GPT multiple times. Okay, so let's take a look over here. And it's a little bit slow, but let's take a look. So record ID is this one. Let's reload the page. So, okay, as we can see, the overall sentiment has been filled. The tip usefulness has been filled. Key insights are there. The common questions are missing. Okay. So common questions is empty. Let's take a look at the results by the GPT. Okay, so the common questions are empty. That's interesting. Okay, so it seems like in this case, they highly appreciated the advice and they found it valuable. So it means there are no common question. And that does make sense. Can we just appreciate the help? Oh, okay. I get it. Yep. Well, it's because we just have the limit set as 1. So, okay. Should we just run this entire module in one go? Let's do this for now. Because we already have the actor running. I want to actually now test out this scenario the right way. So let's come over here and let's update this by the actual search record. So in this case, I see. So we don't even have the record ID. Okay, I got it. So if we come back over here, we have to do the exact same mechanism we did over here, where we have to first extract the exact row that has the same video URL, and then we match it one-on-one when we're updating the record. So let's come over here. We go over from inputs to the scrape content in this case, and we want to fetch the video URL. And we get it over here. So let's change the username to with URL. Okay. And the input should be, in this case, the key. And let's update a record by the, okay, so we have to run this one first. And the key, can we just copy one? Let's copy this. Okay, so as we can see, we got 2 bundles. Why did we get 2 bundles? Is it because we ran it multiple times? Okay, yeah. The reason we got 2 bundles is because if you remember, before we ran the scraper for fully testing purposes, we already had a video, which we wanted to use for testing purposes as well, even though we never used it. And then we have this over here. Okay, so we have to save this. Let's reload the page. And do let me know, guys, if this video has been useful and helpful. So we can come here and yes, now we have the exact ID. So now let's run the actual module. So this is 80% of testing, I'd say, because we know the actor's running, the watch responses is working. So let's run this up. Let's take a look. Okay, so it seems like it's done. And yeah. Wow. So everyone actually found something I just noticed is everyone found the video is really useful. Find it clear, practical, and this is actually really interesting because we created a system like this for a media company that does recipes and a lot of air fryers and really content tailored towards the recipe and videos on TikTok there where people are making like really cool food ingredients. I'm sure we all have seen it. Like I love seeing those kind of videos about making steak with honey and eggs. And a lot of those videos actually had the overall sentiment and the tip usefulness like at the bottom echelons, which was like a 1 or a 2 because they tried those experiments and it wasn't working. But it seems like a lot of these gym videos are pretty useful. Okay, so now let's actually test the system proper end to end one final time. So let's bring this over here. Let's connect this back one and let's bring the Apify scraper and let's clean this up. Okay. So immediately, fine. And so we delete everything. Yeah, let's delete everything. Let's come to video scrape. Okay, it's all deleted. We have the inputs over here. And for the scraper, run an actor. Let's make it, let's change it up honestly. So fitness, let's make it gym body. Let's make it bicep fitness diet, if that's a valid entry to put in. Okay, so we have both these scenarios turned on. And let's test out this end to end. Okay, so while this scenario is running, and it's probably going to take another 2 or 3 minutes for the entire workflow to be completed, I want to bring emphasis to this section over here, which is the top performers. So as we see, it's just a very simple scoring algorithm. And that is why us, along with the businesses we work with, we almost instantly move them from Google Sheets or Notion, whatever document base they're using, to Airtable, because Airtable is just so flexible. And if we take over here, all we have to do is just put in a simple formula for the number of shares times 0.5, the comments times 0.3 times, plus the likes times 0.2. So this is just a weighting algorithm where we're taking 50% of the score is being taken in by the number of shares, the comments, and likes. And that is essentially how we have the scoring mechanism on the back end that allows us to filter the top performing videos. And this is also something that we could do in Make itself. So what we could do is just have it over here. So if you come over here where we have this filter, we could just have it over here as well as a filter where we're just putting in, we're setting a variable, we're doing the math manually, and then we're just checking if it's greater than that set amount of score. So let's give it a while for the scraper to run. And if you always want to take a look at how the scraper is performing, we can just take a look at data extractor, come over to runs. And okay, so it's been done. It's completed, it seems. Yep. So we just got 2 videos. Okay. Because I think it might be because of how we can always come and take a look over here. Okay, so we got a lot of different videos, but in this case, we can see that a lot of them were actually not even in English. Interesting. Okay, so a lot of them were just simply empty. Totally get it. Yep. Because like I said, there are a lot of voiceover videos. And if you'd like to see a system where I create a separate router to take care of those videos, because those videos, even though they don't have a transcription, they're really valuable for the music they're playing, as we can use that music and the captions they already provide to get some type of insights and then feed that into AI to repurpose it into better scripts or more content across different social media platforms, especially short form content. But okay, we have these two. So now let's come back to automations and let's give it a run for extract comments. And let's take a look at this one. So as we can see, it's running. Shouldn't take too long as we just have 2 videos, honestly, and we just are probably getting 10 comments each just for testing purposes. And yeah, so guys, while that is running that's a shame. At the final stage, we just had, so missing value of parameter ID. Okay. Total number of bundled. The formula video URL is equal to this. Totally get it. Yeah. So the reason, guys, it wasn't working is because we forgot to change the dataset ID. So let's do this. Let's save it and it should be working now. Let's give it one final run again. Extract the comments. Let's close this up. Let's turn it on. Let's delete the old data. It's turned on. Let's come back over here and give it a quick run. As we can see, it's been updated and now it should be working. Fingers crossed this time. But I do not see any reason why it shouldn't be working because now we're passing in the actual video URL. The reason it broke over here is because we were extracting previous video URLs, which are not applicable to the database we have now when it's doing that one-on-one matching. Because if you remember, we changed the exact hashtags we were using. Okay, my battery's also almost dead. 10%. Awesome. So let's come back over here. Scrape content, sentiment analysis, and there we go. So we get it. So we get the exact questions. So in this case, the common question is just one. Is this workout good? Are hammer curls effective or not? So they found it. Let's take a look. Found the information helpful with several asked whether they were effective regarding hammer curls, whether there was a mix of engagement, overall the sentiment. Okay. Commenters are highly positive. Okay. So cool. So as we can see, guys, this is part 1 of the series I wanted to make, where we've done all the scraping and information extraction. So now what I want to make part 2 is how we actually implement the system for all the businesses, where phase 1 is typically extracting the information and phase 2 is going to be now using this information to create better script, whether it be a YouTube video. We can do this exact same system for YouTube videos as well. Extract the script and all the comments. Imagine tutorials, how-to videos. and then repurpose that across multi-channel platforms. So I'm actually going to be sharing this exact Airtable database in the comments in the description below, along with these two scenarios. Feel free to play around with them and, reverse engineer them, break them. And this is really, really simple. This is as simple as it gets for what we can really do and the amount of insights and manipulation with AI we can do with all this type of information. But yes, I hope this video was useful. Do comment below what kind of videos you do want to watch in the future. And if you're a business owner as well and you would like this type of a system built for you, this is exactly what we do. We build such business systems, be it in content automations, sales side of things, projects, ops, for over 50 businesses now. There's also a link in the description for a calendar booking page. I would love to get on call and know exactly how we can create a system like this, offer specific needs, and help you scale up more efficiently while reducing the manual workload. But either way, guys, thanks for the time, and I hope you have a good day.
Free audio post-production by alphonic.com.